I know Steve talked about the hindrances, some of those things, the activities that we do on the land that may be impacting the vegetation or the stream in our area. So I'm just going to click through some of these. I put little photos associated with our list of hindrances that we've been talking about. We'll have some more presentations on some of these. This is actually a creek over in Bastrop after the fires, several months after the fires, and had burned through there. And you can see there's a lot of sediment that's gone through there. Large woody debris, Steve talked about that. Channelization of the creeks, that happens a lot in our urban centers, and city parks have a lot of creeks that go through that they've utilized, and so some of these are channelized, which doesn't really allow us to do a lot of those natural processes and functions along the creek that we'd like to see. In some areas, we have excessive vehicle traffic in the creek area. I know Steve talked about Sky's wonderful picture set, and I'm going to run through those again here in this presentation as well. Poorly designed road bridges and road crossings. And excessive recreational foot traffic. This is at a park that has Frisbee golf set up right on the creek, and so it gets a lot of foot traffic through there. Also, excessive alluvial pumping and withdrawals. So one of the things that we've talked about, and there's a lot of guidance out there, there's a stream visual assessment protocol that you can go through. This is the list of what some of those visual indicators are to look at stream health. And so when we walk the stream, we'll be talking in more detail about some of these items, the channel condition, the vegetation. You've heard a lot about this today, and hopefully we'll get to point out some of this in the field. These are some of those factors that aren't always applicable to a site when you're looking at the site and looking at the stream health of how much canopy cover it is. Well, if you're in a prairie system, you're not going to have a lot of tree canopy there. Is there manure present if there's animals there? That could be livestock or wildlife. Does it have a salinity issues? And we have some areas here, even in the Plum Creek watershed, that have some high salinity areas. So not a lot will grow in the land there because of the high salinity. And we have higher salinity in the water, in the streams. Riffle embeddedness. Are there macroinvertebrates? And that just means the aquatic insects in the creeks. If you go and walk around and look in the vegetation, pick up rocks and look on the underside of them, are you going to see some of those aquatic species that live there and are food for the fish and wildlife? And are there fish in the creek? So these are some of the other factors that you can look at when you're assessing a creek or just driving through or looking at the creek on your property. And so one thing I have a little bit later talking about how we would like lots of people to start taking photo points so they can see how some of the management impacts their land. And I have a bunch of the photos from the Nueces River photo points by Sky Louie. Starting back in the beginning in 2007, this is before they changed the rules for all of the 4x4s driving up and down the river. And this is a series since 2007 that goes through. You can start seeing the vegetation coming in. The vegetation's getting older. You can see the stream kind of changing. In this next picture, we see how the drought impacted it. Now we have water flowing again. The vegetation is still doing well, thriving. And this is a picture that I had, and this, I believe this is the end of 2012. And Sky said she has a newer picture that we need to get and add to this, that the vegetation looks even better. So incredible transformation at this site. And so this is something that you can easily do to set up these points, and I'll walk through a little part about doing that on your own place that you might want to follow through time and see how your management measures or how management is doing and if your area needs any recovery. The impact of stream flow and water quality. We talked about this, I said this already, are cumulative as that water moves down through the system. And so whatever's going on with the management or the natural area that can be positive or negative impacts downstream. So what you do above, what your neighbors do above you may be impacting you, and what you do may be impacting those folks downstream. As you're looking at the creeks and the streams, it's good to hear some history about the area, or know the history about the area, and think about in the present time, has something changed that's caused a change in that water, sediment, or vegetation. Management activities, we hope, will have a better understanding of the creek so that we can use those activities to protect healthy systems and allow recovery for functioning systems in areas that may need some help. So what can we do? What can we do to manage properly in our area, even at around the home or on our ag properties? If you have a lawn and garden, there's some activities we can do there. Managing properly household chemicals, and water use and conservation, of course, are going to be big, and big now while we're still feeling the impacts of the drought. So in urban areas, we're seeing lots of urbanization. There's a lot of activities with construction and paving, wastewater disposal. Am I blocking all you over here? I'm sorry. Wastewater disposal into those creeks, and proper fertilizer and pesticide use, even on those small lawns in urban areas. Over-irrigation, a lot of people set that sprinkler system on to water X times a week, and they don't manage it. Even if it's been raining, it's still going to water and over-irrigate. And increasing in bare ground. We want that vegetation to cover the ground. And so those BMPs would include minimizing impervious surfaces in those areas. So we have areas where the water can infiltrate, putting in infiltration systems, detention systems or ponds or swales, retention systems. So some of our large lakes, we have a lot of flood control structures here in the Plum Creek watershed. Constructed wetland systems, where we're trying to construct a wetland and mimic nature's wetlands to clean and slow down and hold that water. Filtration systems, and also vegetation systems that could be things like swales. So having a vegetated area that's cleaning up that stormwater as it's flowing to the creek. Some of the things that we can do to manage our landscape and garden is properly designing that home landscape area, minimizing any impervious surfaces on your property, using grasses, trees, and natural landscaping vegetation, or vegetation that's native to the area that may not need as much water or be able to survive the different climates. Mulching the bare soil or planting it with vegetation, so you're minimizing that bare soil. Properly managing weeds, that can include cutting or pulling those, just going out there and digging them out mechanically yourself or with tools, especially before they go to seed, to reduce them from spreading all over once those little seeds come out. Minimizing your area of disturbance, so it will prevent those weeds from coming in and establishing if you have some good ground cover. Selecting the correct herbicide and using only as needed to deal with managing those weeds. Some of our agricultural activities and BMPs, these are lists of activities and BMPs. These are by no means listing everything that we need to know or talk about, but some of those are improper livestock manure and wastewater can lead to water quality issues. Poor grazing management or overstocking. I know in times of drought, when we're not in the norm, it's a little more difficult to keep on where those numbers should be, and we don't know how much more rain we're going to get. Improper fertilizer and pesticide management, where you're storing that, when you're using that. The removal of riparian vegetation to be able to use that more of that land. And again, over irrigation. And so the real role of BMPs is to control that surface runoff, try and filter that surface runoff, Minimize the use of potential pollutants in your area when you're managing. Only use what's needed. Other BMPs of their role is to help ensure sound pest and nutrient management activities, and all of these BMPs will hopefully help optimize your production on your place. So these are some of the lists of the agricultural BMPs that will help deal with that, and we've already talked about their role. So there's structures in here. There's, again, the nutrient management, buffer or filter strips along the areas where you're managing. And I'm kind of listing these, but you're going to get to hear some more information while we're out on the field at one of the stations that's going to talk in more depth, especially if you have any questions for the professionals to talk about agricultural BMPs out in the field. Managing invasive species. That's become very important. They're affecting aquatic, riparian, and upland areas throughout our state, and critical habitats have become at risk in many areas because of them. The Texas Department of Agriculture currently lists 32 noxious weeds that are proliferating in Texas. Some of these big ones, or the most potent ones that we're having issues in trying to battle, include giant salvinia, giant cane or arundo, field bindweed, Chinese tallow, salt cedar. These are some of the main ones. So looking and understanding and knowing to being able to identify some of these and working to try and remove them. Feral hogs are another big issue. They have been estimated to cause $52 million in damage annually in Texas, and they've been increasing in their numbers. We have Jared Timmons that's going to talk a little bit more about feral hogs at one of the field sites. So in our management and moving forward, we really want to try and manage to reduce those invasive species. So to go a little more in depth on the use of pesticides and fertilizers, we always want to make sure that we're applying those carefully and only the amount that we need. If you need to, it's good to consult a qualified pest professional. When you're storing these or discarding any leftovers, you want to never put it down your household drain or toilets, because they can impact the wastewater treatment systems or your own septic system. So we really want to promote that everyone disposes their old or unused products at local hazardous municipal collection events. And that's becoming more and more available with cities and counties being able to provide those household hazardous collection events. And so when you hear about those, please advertise to all your neighbors so we get more and more people taking advantage of those. So before you apply any fertilizer on your land or yard or crops, you want to try and test your soil so that you know, do you need the fertilizer and what kind do you need? Know what you're planting it for. Are you just putting it on your turf grass, or are you putting it on your garden? Use only the amount that is needed for that area. So know how large your yard is or your garden is before you go in to try and buy it and apply it. Apply when the plants are actively growing, not when they are dormant. If they're dormant, they're not going to be uptaking any of those nutrients, and they'll probably be lost and washed away. You want to make sure that you calibrate your spreaders to obtain the proper rate for whatever vegetation that you're fertilizing. And if you're in an urbanized area, you want to sweep up that excessive amount off your sidewalks and driveways, because it will just run into the storm drains. So another thing that we're really trying to promote is the photo monitoring, and I showed you Sky's really great pictures showing the transformation of her creek. And so we're hoping, and the Texas Riparian Association as well, are promoting trying to get some photo monitoring sites on creeks across the state. We have a lot of different ecoregions and soils and types of creeks, and we want to see try and follow some of those and see how they're doing. So if any of you guys want to do this on your place and help send those in to the website where we can kind of post how creeks are transforming through this drought, and with management, we'd love for you to do that. Photo monitoring is just repeating those photographs at set locations. And this will allow you to kind of assess the current conditions and the changes over time in the future. It's really critical to look at sites that may be critical sites. Is it an area where the force of the moving water is going to cause detrimental impacts? Are you having some erosion? Are you at a stream bend where you can watch what's going on there as the dynamics of the stream change? Another good place to take photos is if you have another tributary or a storm drain that's coming in and adding flow into that location, or if you have an area where you have a lot of high runoff, where you see the water really flows down that hill. That may be an area that you want to photo monitor to look at changes over time. You want to find sites that's easily accessible and kind of representative of the area. You don't want to pick a place that's really hard to get to because you want to make it easy on yourself, that you'll get to that site so you can continually go through and every 6 months or every year go back and take a picture of that site. When you go to the site that you're going to take a picture, we suggest that you take 4 photographs at each site. You want to look upstream at the nearest bank, the stream channel, the opposite bank if possible, and then turn around and look at the land above that and take a picture of that area. We also suggest that if you can, take a felt pen and a yellow piece of paper. White is sometimes bright in photographs, but you can use white, and make a sign to put in the photo scene so you can remember. Include some of the identification of that site, like the stream name or the site, of course the date of when you were taking that photo, so then you don't have to go back and look it up. It'll be right there in your photo where you'll have that information. So this is showing some of those key locations where you can select to monitor. Here's a site showing we have another little tributary joining, so we can take a picture and see how that's changing through time. Here's just a long section here. Above and below, a nice bend and point bar here, so you can manage those. Each of these locations should be permanently marked so you can remember and find that location and go right back to where you were kind of standing to take those pictures in the future. You can do this by putting in a steel stake, or a lot of people, and even on your phones anymore with the mapping systems, you can set a pin and get your GPS locations and keep that information on coordinates if possible. Locate that reference point at a safe distance inland. You don't want to put a wood stake in the ground and then every time you get a little bit of rain and the water rises up, it's going to wash it away. So put it a safe distance out so that it will be able to stay there. It's really good to make a map of the stream, even a hand-drawn map or something like this, where you can locate those sites and markers. So one of our goals in putting together this workshop was to talk about some of the streams, let people in Texas, we're all working on getting a better understanding of how these streams work and how they react to management. But we also want all of you folks that are interested to be familiar with your local resources and to take advantage of those. And so we have a lot of those folks and agencies here in the audience of our local resources, and I have some slides with some more information. I tried to put in some of the websites here so that you could even go on and look it up if you had more questions or wanted to find out more information. So we have the Texas State Soil and Water Conservation Board is the agency that is funding this program through their non-point source program, where they have a lot of projects, activities, and education that is funded through that 319 non-point source program at the website here. You heard Wesley, who was introduced earlier, but here is his contact information, and he's the Riparian project manager. Then we have Jana Lloyd in the red shirt in the back, and she is with the Texas State Soil and Water Conservation Board. Also, they're both housed in Temple, Texas, and she is the Plum Creek project manager for this watershed. And then I just put their basic website. They have a lot more information about some of the other programs that they have going on. The Caldwell, Travis, and Hayes Soil and Water Conservation Districts, they have a program where they have technical and financial assistance for ranchers and farmers in the Plum Creek Watershed. I've included the contact information for Caldwell and Hayes counties in here. BJ Westmoreland will be coming and helping us in the field portion this afternoon. He's been the current district technician for this program, but he is ending his work with us at the end of this month. And so I didn't include his name, so hopefully that position will be refilled and we'll have a name there. Through this program where there's funding to help put in agricultural BMPs to improve water quality, these are the list of all of the different types of management measures that there is funding and, technical assistance, of course, but all of these projects can be funded through this program. So if you're in this watershed and interested, I hope that you will contact them, and you'll hear a little bit more about some of these in the field. We also have the USDA Natural Resources Conservation Service. We have two of our folks that are local here, Isidro Morales and Robert. And then we also have, where did Russell go? Russell Castro out of the Temple office, and Kyle Wright out of the Temple office. So we have lots of representatives from the Natural Resource Conservation Service, and they're going to help us some more out in the field, and you can learn a little bit more about agricultural BMPs. But I included, these are the programs, and you can look these up with Google and find out more about the information. I will probably put these up on the website. All of these are hot linked to that program, so if you're interested in going directly to that, you can link up with them. We have the Caldwell County and Hayes County Agrilife Extension Service, and they were originally available for this date to be here. Michael Haynes here in Caldwell County and Richard Parrish in Hayes County, but they had an extension training that came up that they had to attend, and so they weren't able to join us today. But they also can provide a lot of technical assistance on questions around your land, around the home. They have a wide variety of connections through the Texas A&M University to provide services and information on all of these areas here. So if you're not familiar with them, I hope you will get familiar with them. We have the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department. Blake Hendon, I thought was going to be here today, and he's a private lands biologist for Hayes County, Travis County, and a third county. And then we have Meredith Longoria, who's a private lands biologist here for Caldwell County, and I should have included her information on this slide. We also have Gary Garrett. He's the director of the Watershed Policy and Management. And then you heard already today from Ryan McGillicuddy, who is a conservation ecologist in that same group at Parks and Wildlife. And they are in, Ryan is in Austin, but Gary is in Kerrville, right? Kerrville area. So they have a bunch of information on BMPs at this website here, so I made sure that I got that included. They have a whole bunch of information about all kinds of watershed BMPs, everything you would want to know on this great website here. We also have the Texas A&M Forest Service, and we're going to have Hughes Simpson present next while we're eating our lunch. But we also have Lori Hazel, Staff Forester 2. She is located out of Temple, and Hughes is in Lufkin. And they have a great website with a whole bunch of best management practices information with Forest Service here. They have another website that has information, forestry, silviculture based on forest and water, that has a bunch of neat information that I included here, as well as their water resources blog that you can sign up and subscribe and get information from, and then their main website. We also have Nick Dornack. that you guys have seen up here. We gave out the certificate, the Plum Creek Watershed Coordinator, and I included his contact information, the Plum Creek website, as well as the main website for the Guadalupe Blanco River Authority. You're going to hear a little bit more about feral hogs and management practices and different aspects of their biology from Jared Timmons in the back when we go out in the field. But I wanted to include the information on the website. There is a wealth of fact sheets, YouTube videos on everything from how to build a trap just to about feral hogs and their biology. Jared Timmons, there's two other gentlemen at different areas in the state. He's going to be your local contact for this area, but they'll provide site visits to landowners and have a lot of technical resources, as well as provide presentations for a lot of groups and coordinate feral hog management workshops that some of you may have been here. We do one annually every year at least. So I wanted to tie you in with some of the local resources and get connections. Because we all have the same goal that a healthy riparian vegetation zone is a very important element for a healthy stream ecosystem. That quality of the riparian zone is going to increase with the width and complexity of that vegetation within it. And so as we all better understand our creeks and rivers, we can all be better land and water stewards for the state. That is all I have for this little presentation.